This is Marnie Vandenberg, recording live from the Billie Jean King Tennis Center at the U.S. Open, and you're listening to the Tennis Podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast. It is Thursday evening here in the UK. The WTA Finals in Riyadh have reached the end of their group stage. Round robin tennis is over for now. Matt Roberts rejoices, although he might have come round to round robin tennis. More of that to come. We're here to look back on the round robin stages and to look ahead at what's potentially to come in the semi-finals and finals. Matt, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. It's been quite a busy 48 hours in tennis podcast world. More on that later, but I have had time to track Amanda Anisimova getting through the group stages in the WTA Finals and setting up a repeat of the US Open final as we heard Marnie there in the intro live from the US Open a few weeks ago. So somehow it all works.
A very, very appropriate intro today from Marnie. I love the name Marnie. And thank you for that intro, Marnie. And thank you for that little tease, Matt. You've done my job for me. Yes, do stay tuned, folks, for a very exciting announcement at the end of this show. David, how are you doing?
I'm really well. And I'm enjoying seeing things looking a little brighter on the predictions front, given we had a bad start. And maybe we didn't have a bad start. It looked like it might be a bad start. It's ended up good. And I'm actually really pumped for the semi-finals. And I think particularly Sabalenka against Anisimova, because I think we've seen this situation before now with Swiatek and Anisimova playing sort of a slam final and a result going the way of the favoured player, and then Anisimova sort of regrouping, and I want to see if that happens here. You know, I know it's not a Grand Slam, but it's big, and I'm really pumped.
Yeah, we're going to lead with Amanda Anisimova. Luckily, David has already written the rule book on how you the road to gloating with predictions, the rocky road from potential humiliation to gloating that you intrepidly trod with Naomi Osaka during the US Open, David.
One of many.
Talk us through it once again. What's
I can't
stage one?
Exactly remember. I think
stage one is making the outlandish prediction. Obviously,
yes. And then there's
you'll have heard us do that, avid listeners. Yeah. We all went all in on Amanda Anisimova to win the WTA
I do
Finals.
sometimes make these things completely on the spur of the moment without honestly having given it maybe as much thought as I should. I sometimes do go with gut, but I do kind of trust my gut, you know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yes, basically you have to make the prediction and stand there and just not back down. Then you have to hope they perform sufficiently well that you avoid humiliation.
Avoiding humiliation, folks. Stage one.
Yes.
It wasn't looking good.
No. No, we were a loss to Madison Keys and a set and a break. No, sorry, we were a loss to Elena Rybakina, a one-sided loss, and a set and a breakdown to injured Madison Keys. And the road really was rocky, folks.
That's right, and I would say that stage two is silencing your doubters, of which there were many over Naomi Osaka, and it kind of it was really the win over Swiatek that kind of gave. Was it Swiatek?
Gauff for Osaka.
And it was really the win over Coco Gauff for Naomi Osaka that did the trick in terms of silencing the doubters. Then you're in comfortable territory. You know, nobody can get at you anymore, right? The fact that she didn't win the thing, but you're not at gloating level. and gloating is the ultimate. So that's what we're after. We're after her Anisimova winning. I mean, look, obviously I don't mind who wins out of these 4 players. I just want Anisimova to be so that I can gloat.
Yeah, our credibility mines a bit,
Yeah.
David. Yeah, so basically we're at stage 2.
Correct.
We are silent. We and Amanda Anisimova are silencing the doubters, and that is because Amanda Anisimova is through to the semi-finals, where she will face Aryna Sabalenka. Sabalenka coming through the Steffi Graf Group along with Jessica Pegula. We'll talk about that in part 1. Let's start with the Serena Williams Group, where we have Amanda Anisimova and Elena Rybakina progressing through the group. Rybakina progressing in beautiful form and in first place in the group. But we're going to lead with Amanda Anisimova. And in fact, her victory over Iga Swiatek yesterday to seal qualification for the semi-finals, by far the best match at the tournament so far in terms of quality. I know at that stage that was not a high bar to clear. It's still not that high bar higher bar to clear, but this was a fantastic match and more evidence, Matt. I know we don't need any more at this point. The point is proven. We know who Amanda Anisimova is now. But if you needed any more evidence of her resilience, well, it was there in this match once again.
She's so good. She is. She's so good and so resilient. Yes, because
You sound so relieved that she's good.
Well, I've been saying it for years, but now she actually is, and it's just so pleasing.
Good under pressure as well, isn't she? Good under sort of, when you've got a lot that is making you maybe question yourself and reason to doubt, and yet she's proven that she's got it in her to fight through those moments and really start to hit the ground running.
Yeah, exactly. Because, as you said, I think this was the only match we've had so far where it was straight winner takes all. Like we had Gauff Sabalenka today, which was almost that, but there was a set equation in there and it could have got complicated. But Swiatek and Anisimova was the losers going home and the winners going through. It was as simple as that. And I just think that really did help to elevate the match and make the stakes clear. And it was, I think, the best quality match we've had from start to finish, because look, I'm sure we'll talk more about Iga Swiatek's loss to Elena Rybakina, where again she won the first set but then got totally blown away and totally went off the rails in that match. This was not like that. This was sustained quality throughout. A really good start from both players, where breaks of serve were so hard to come by. They were both holding serve, and Iga Swiatek won it in a first set tie break and was brilliant. Really good in that tie break, having fended off some break points at the end of that set. And then Swiatek has break points at the start of the second set, which I think is exactly what David's describing there, of Anisimova under pressure having to deliver. And she did. She stepped up, she saved those break points. Swiatek missed a second serve return on one of them, which will be a regret, but otherwise Anisimova saved them. And then, even at a set down to Iga Swiatek, one of the great front runners that this sport has seen, Anisimova digs in and she's got her teeth into a match. She started striking the ball like we know she can, and she believes and she brings it and she levels it up, and then she just goes off into the distance in that third set and again has to fight through a tough moment, saving a break point at 4-2, but just has too much, off both wings. I'm always going on about the backhand, but the forehand stepped up as well, and we saw that on the match point where she'd been hitting those returns inside out so well all match, but this time she hits it sort of inside in, and Swiatek's rooted to the baseline. She can't read it, and that's the match. And Anisimova now moves to 15-3 in deciding sets this year. It's Kei Nishikori levels of remarkable deciding set record. And yeah, once she's found her range, once she's in a match and is fighting and showing that resilience, she's just proven to be so goddamn good this year. And we saw it again. And yeah, the narrative, of course, of her against Swiatek is always going to be rooted in sort of coming back from that Wimbledon final double bagel, and now she's beaten her twice in a row. And I don't think Swiatek played poorly in this one. I really don't. I think she's not at her absolute best, but Anisimova took that from her, and it was outstanding.
Did Swiatek play poorly against Elena Rybakina? I mean, the answer surely has to be yes for most of the match. She lost 12 games in a row in this match. This wasn't just letting go of a lead and losing from a winning position against a great player. This was a total collapse out of nowhere, was it not?
Bit like we've seen earlier this year, if you think about it as well, when you think of some of the ones in the spring on the clay, when she would sort of have an okay start and then it would just suddenly go away dramatically, or she would lose an opening set incredibly one-sidedly. I mean, it's just not what we're used to, and it's made for the most interesting year of her career in many ways, because she has been very successful. I mean, she's won Wimbledon. She's been in other big tournament latter stages and looking kind of like herself, and then also this new version of herself, which at the same time is almost like an old version of herself, because I was reading Matt Futterman's article in The Athletic today where he's talking about how she's continually trying with Wim Fissette to reintroduce the variety, not just the stand toe-to-toe tennis of Thomas Witkarowski. She wants to have more to a game. But it is a big ask, that, isn't it? And, I think then you come up against a player like Rybakina, who has kind of one way to play. She is coming for you, and we know that big hitters have hurt Swiatek in the past. And, unless Swiatek is bang on it against that ball, it probably is really tough to counter.
Yeah, it concludes a season for Swiatek that I am struggling to make sense of it. Really, a lot of the things we thought we knew about Iga Swiatek, kind of the opposite happened this year, and that makes it really compelling for us as viewers and observers and analysts of the sport. But difficult to get your head around. And I think David's right. There has been a big process of unlearning that she's going through with this new coach, Wim Fissette, who wants her to play a bit more like she used to play. But I think in some of her toughest defeats, she's reverted back to type and been a bit guilty of losing patience and overhitting. And I think we really did see that today. The other day against Rybakina. She just disappeared from that match, Iga Swiatek. It was really tight. I think the second set was maybe a bit tighter than it seems. I know 6-1, but like some of those games, it was a little bit. It still felt like a match. Whereas in the third set, it didn't, and a lot of that was Rybakina serving brilliantly, playing I think the best tennis that we've seen from anyone in this tournament so far. But it was a slightly familiar Iga Swiatek tale of lack of patience and being really one-sidedly beaten in a set in a way that just didn't used to happen to her, and we have seen that at numerous times this season, and I think it is more likely to happen when she's tired and kind of at the end of her energy levels, which she does seem to be right now. So any year you win Wimbledon, and especially as Iga Swiatek, that feels like a sort of unimaginable high, really. It was the one that I really thought she might never win. So for her to tick that off this year, you have to say that is such a good achievement. But it does feel like the rest of the field's just caught up to her a little bit. Like she started to lose. I know she came into this tournament with the head-to-head lead over everyone in the field, or at least an even record. But I think a lot of that was historic and maybe helped by some of her clay court success as well. I think if you look at it now, she's lost a couple in a row to Anisimova. She's lost 3 in a row to Gauff. She's lost 2 in a row to Sabalenka. She's lost her most recent match against Rybakina now, her most recent match against Paolini. Like, the rest of the top players have slightly caught up to Iga Swiatek, I think. And this year has has just sort of demonstrated that, even though she's still been right there with them most of the way.
Do you think she'd have signed for this season at the start of 2025? Some people think that's a ludicrous question. She won Wimbledon, as you say, Matt. Like, that is something she might have wondered if she'd have ever get to do in her career. And yet, there's a part of me that thinks she's the kind of character that she's not number one. She hasn't been the best player this season. And I think she's so ambitious and ruthless and dedicated that finishing the season not at number one is not what she was aiming for at the start of this year. I'm not sure she would have signed for it. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know.
So it is an impossible question.
Wimbledon's so big. Wimbledon is huge.
She won Wimbledon.
She won Wimbledon. I think you signed for that.
It's enormous, isn't it? And I think I don't know her, and it is guesswork. But I sense that she would be frustrated and surprised at some of the inconsistency in within matches, the way that she lost those one-sided sets. I think that would be like, really? Did I do that? But then to suddenly put together that sort of form to win Wimbledon and have that high, I often think with questions like that, players usually would say no to something at the start of it because they would think that they could do more than what they ended up with. I've heard that. I remember Roger Federer in the interview, sorry for the name drop, I did with him in 2010 when I put to him how many Grand Slams he'd won over, or if I offered you this many Grand Slams over the next 5 years, would you take it right now? I remember asking him that in 2010. I think I said, if I offered you three more over the next 5 years, I think it was, or something like that. And he said, and that would take him past the record, I think it was. I can't exactly remember the numbers, but I remember he just said, no, I'd want to win more because I have won 2 or 3 a year. That's what I'm used to, basically. And I think that not winning Roland Garros is probably quite hard for Iga Swiatek to accept, because that's something she does, even though she knows it's really tough and there's a lot of competition out there, and she doesn't assume stuff. But it is an interesting season, and I wonder how she will go into the next one to try to improve things.
Yeah, I'm in no way suggesting it's been a bad season. I just, circling back to the original words that Matt said, it's been a weird season for Iga Swiatek. Really weird season. We haven't really talked about Elena Rybakina, who's probably the woman that deserves the most plaudits from this Serena Williams Group. Talk about rediscovering form, David. I mean, this looks close to peak Rybakina right now. She has been absolutely awesome in Riyadh so far.
Yeah, she's been searching for this all year. This feeling of security, I think, from the baseline, knowing what's coming off her racket. We know how good her serve is when it's on. It's the best. You talk to Goran Ivanisevic when he worked with her. You listen to Andy Roddick. These are people that know serving, and they rate her serve above all other in the game right now. And it's the way she just rolls her arm over and the points over. Just. I mean, I know there's more to it than that, but that's what it looks like. And then the reaction when it actually comes off the strings, the sound of it. I mean, it's awesome to behold. It's top level tennis, this. And you look at them now on paper. You would not be surprised if she ended up actually winning it. I know we've picked Anisimova, but I was really taken aback by the level against Anisimova. And I realise she's improved since then, but blimey, if Rybakina keeps this up, she'll take some stopping.
The one to beat, Matt, Elena Rybakina?
Based on form so far, yes. I do think she's playing the best tennis here. I just don't know whether she's answered the question that I've had about her this year, which is kind of with regards to I guess, the clutch gene, Like, we've seen a lot of Rybakina matches where she's been in winning positions and not been able to close. And I just feel like there's been a lot of baggage over the last year or so accumulated there. She hasn't really needed to flex that muscle. This is an extended metaphor that is not working, but
I'm enjoying it. Press on.
You get what I'm saying. She hasn't really needed to be clutch this tournament so far because she's been so good and been so dominant. Other than losing that one set to Iga Swiatek, she's been absolutely imperious so far. But I just think when it gets close, if the players left in this draw can make it close, I'm probably backing Sabalenka, or I'm backing Anisimova. See previous discussion about her 3-set record form. Like, it's just whether anyone can make it close. And I just have to think that there might be a level drop to come from Rybakina because that kind of has been the pattern of her last couple of years. There's a reason she hasn't been winning the biggest titles, and like a lot of it is form, and she's got that form right now. But I think there's just something a bit more to it as well. So I think she's playing the best tennis, but I think I'm probably backing maybe all of the others in terms of that real match toughness and ability to just get over the line at kind of bigger events. So she feels like the favourite right now because she's playing so well, but things can change, I suppose. And now we're not in round robin.
Like the traitors, you got to come through a test.
Right.
She hasn't come through a test at the round table.
Yeah. She's Alan Carr. It's the comparison everyone has always thought. Elena Rybakina, Alan Carr.
Just like Alan Carr, so far, the Traitors finale starts in an hour and 51 minutes here in the UK as we record. So far, undefeated. She beat Iga Swiatek, that comeback win. She dismissed Amanda Anisimova in her opening match, and then she faced Ekaterina Alexandrova in her third match. Alexandrova, the second alternate. Did anybody know that Ekaterina Alexandrova was lurking in Riyadh? I certainly didn't. Mira Andreeva was the first alternate. She's obviously playing in the doubles, elected not to come in and play the singles when given the opportunity. And I get that. There's a difference between being fit to play singles and fit to play doubles. That's absolutely her right, and I think I respect that decision from Mira Andreeva. So in comes Ekaterina Alexandrova making an unexpected appearance and actually putting up a decent show, but being overpowered by the brilliant Elena Rybakina, as she has been so far. So it'll be Rybakina against Pegula in the semi-finals and Sabalenka against Anisimova. We'll talk about those two and how they made their way through the Steffi Graf Group in part 2. Welcome back to part 2 of today's tennis podcast, where we turn our attention now to the Steffi Graf Group. Apparently, Steffi Graf and Serena Williams are a couplet in this particular context because they've both won 5 WTA Finals titles. That is how those two group names have been arrived at. There you go. This group has been won by the world number one. She collected her year-end number one trophy this week, and she has progressed through the groups unscathed. It is, of course, Aryna Sabalenka. The key match for her in this group, the 3-set win over Jessica Pegula, a much-needed, decent quality match. The first really competitive, good quality match of these finals. 6-4, 2-6, 6-3. And unlike Alan Carr and Elena Rybakina, Aryna Sabalenka has been tested, Matt.
Yeah, she has, because, as you said, Pegula, Sabalenka, like at the moment, a really reliable matchup in terms of generating pretty good matches. I didn't think this was as high quality as Swiatek and Anisimova, but it was competitive, and Sabalenka really did that thing of stepping up when she needed to. She sort of really went away in that second set, but some of the shot making in that third set, particularly with backhands down the line on the run. It seemed to be a shot that she kept coming up with time and time again, and in crucial moments just stepping up. And she's sort of done that a lot against Jessica Pegula. Pegula's right there with her, but Sabalenka just has a gear, a level that Pegula doesn't quite have, I think. And Sabalenka seems to be able to find it most of the time. Obviously, Pegula got her in Wuhan just a couple of weeks ago, but most of the time Sabalenka just seems to be able to raise it enough. But yeah, I really do like the way they're matching up against each other right now. It was not a straightforward match at all for Sabalenka. There was a lot of angst. Her coach Dubrov left the box during the match, and there was clearly some sort of tough emotions out there, but she got through it. And then, speaking of tough emotions, I was having real flashbacks to June and Roland Garros, watching her slowly descend into madness just now against Coco Gauff, as it seemed to be happening again in that first set. And she was eye rolling and sighing, and the shoulders were slumping, and she was contorting her face in all sorts of frustrated expressions and slamming the ball down. And
she was having an awful time.
Yeah,
awful. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know how she won that set. I mean, I do, because she's brilliant, but God, she was hating it in that first set.
Gauff was 4-2 up, had 2 break points to go, a double break up. She served for the set, Gauff at 5-4. She was 30-love up, and then Sabalenka won 8 points in a row, and did so with some brilliant tennis. There was one point where she came forward. There was a brilliant forehand pass sort of up the line, some big serving in there as well. Just brilliant stuff. And then we landed in a tie break. And look, I know Sabalenka did lose that tie break to Jessica Pegula the other day, but she's still so good in these tie breaks. And then again, she was down in it, but stepped it up and mounted the comeback. And I'm so impressed with that by Sabalenka. There was a scenario, I think, where she could have won in 3 sets and still won, but I think and still gone through. But Gauff was gunning for her in that first set, because Gauff pretty much knew, I think, that she needed to win in straights to get through, and she just withstood Gauff, who was playing well in that first set, and all the flashbacks and emotions that comes from that matchup, I think. And she just kept it together, and then raised her level when she needed to, and then race clear in that second set. That was a strong effort from Sabalenka today, I thought.
One of my favourite things about her is when she gets upset and is clearly bothered by her own form, by the circumstances. Looks like she's having a terrible time, and yet she can still play, and she can sometimes. It can go off. I mean, we've seen it in those matches against Coco Gauff, actually, usually. And I think this is maybe a big one that she's sort of weathered it this time. But, she just... Any other player, you would kind of think, oh, well, she's not going to be able to focus on the next point after that. And yet she does. She just grips the racket even more ferociously and goes after it. I love it.
Did you see Aryna Sabalenka's return position in that second set? Billie Jean did. It was like, Gavin McMillan is sat there on the sidelines, the bloke, Aryna Sabalenka's ex-coach that Coco Gauff poached in order to bring in and fix her serve. I know there's no beef between those two. I've seen the TikToks. I know it's all fine. But I also saw where Sabalenka was standing to return that serve, and it was a dismissive return position. It was way inside the baseline. It was, oh, you brought him in to fix your serve, did you? That's gone well, hasn't it? That's what that return position was saying. And look, her serve wasn't nearly as bad today or in the second match as it was in her first match against Jessica Pegula. I think she took a bit of pace off it today, was my sense. Went back to a sort of US Open, slightly more US Open-y approach. But yeah, I think I think Coco Gauff, as great a competitor as she is, as much as she loves the sport and being out there and getting her teeth stuck in, I think she's ready for the end of the season, Matt. I think she's okay with not having a match to play tomorrow, put it that way.
Yeah, I think so. And that's probably really important to remember that, right? Like, I feel like so often we talk about players experiencing burnout, but actually Coco Gauff probably isn't top of that list for me. Like, I don't often think of her necessarily as one of those players, but I think it comes to pretty much everyone. And when you're having the struggles that she's had with her game as well, I feel like almost every match she's played this year has been some sort of ordeal or mentally exhausting or challenging. You know, she's been battling herself as much as her own opponent at times, and I think that must be tiring. And she's already made it very clear how she sees this time of the season. You know, she's had some great success in the post-US Open period. Some of her biggest successes have been in the post-US Open period with a slightly different mindset.
She's had that success because she DGAF, apparently.
Right. So I think that combined with tiredness, combined with the struggles with the game, like even sort of superhuman Coco Gauff is going to feel it eventually. And yeah, it does feel like she's been ready for the end of the season.
Jessica Pegula threw in second place in this Steffi Graf Group, so she will play Elena Rybakina in the semi-finals. I mean, she must be ready for the end of the season as well, Pegula. She just keeps going, doesn't she? She I know it's sort of such a tired take to say Jessica Pegula is underrated, but I'm going to say it because I think I underrate Jessica Pegula. I really do. Like, she's some player and some competitor and a real credit to the sport. She always leaves it all out there. She's a real credit to the sport.
You wouldn't catch me underrating anybody. But Jessica Pegula, I do think...
Do you know what, David? This was a big week for Jasmine Paolini being a good draw.
Well, yes, because
very well.
I mean, I think Pegula's 8 previous wins had been in deciding sets, and then today along comes poor Jasmine Paolini, and finally Pegula manages a straight sets win.
Yeah, I think maybe David could have got a straight sets win over
poor
Jasmine Paolini. The stage
poor
she was
Jasmine's
in this
not
week.
been well, has she?
And they had run out of alternates, so I don't know.
Bless her, she keeps on going.
Yeah, but incredible.
But to answer your question, I mean, I do think we are guilty, probably because of the type of player she is, of damning her with faint praise a little bit, and I like to think some of that has changed the last few months. It is not only is it a great example of somebody who just doesn't quit, doesn't sort of have an off button really. Once she decides to go for it, she gives you a performance pretty much all the time. There's been that one a few years ago when she was on empty, but what she's done this autumn, fall as they call it, is unreal to me. Because when the Grand Slam season ends, I think it is so normal for these top players to have a bit of a dip, or to wonder whether they can be that bothered when they've done as much as they already have. And there's not been a bit of that from her. She's been one of the players of this swing. All these 3-set matches, just digging in, great matches, sometimes uncharacteristic type matches as well, where she kind of chokes a bit or she saves loads and loads of match points, and yet she's still winning. I actually love watching her matches against these big hitters, watching her figure it out, because she's kind of a counter-punching big hitter. She's not stand and deliver, knock you off the court power, but she can retaliate. And yeah, it's fantastic, the fact that she's so often in this position.
And I think I've wondered with Pegula, she's kind of older than you think, because she's only really been like a top player kind of since the pandemic, really. I think it's easy to think of her as in the same age bracket as some of these players that she's been really consistent alongside over the last few years, but she is quite a lot older than them. And I had start to wonder whether there was going, whether that sort of decline was going to come. And I think in particular, her Grand Slam results this year, certainly the first few slams of the year, when she lost to Boisson and Cocchiaretto, over Roland Garros and Wimbledon, sort of looking back now, I think at the time they felt like sort of disappointing losses. But I did wonder whether they were part of a, bigger picture of maybe a bit of Jessica Pegula decline. But she's just been so good over the last few months. She's just sort of made that not the case and made me really feel confident that she still can compete with the very, very best players in the world, because she herself is one of the very best players in the world. And I think when she reflects on her season, she will be disappointed by her slam results generally. But this little portion of the season post US Open has sort of reaffirmed my belief that actually she's not going anywhere yet. She still is right up there with the best of them, and potentially capable of even winning this tournament. She's so good.
Okay, well, that's round robin over. Matt, you can breathe a sigh of relief.
No, I love it. I love round robin. It allows you to lose your first match and then win your next two and keep up a prediction. I've always said that. I've always loved it.
Okay, we will talk about the knockout matches in part 3. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast. We have semi-finals to talk about. We have Elena Rybakina against Jessica Pegula. What's the head-to-head here, Matt? What does this remind me? What this matchup looks like?
Well, we had it very recently in the Billie Jean King Cup, and it did not look good for Jessica Pegula. Rybakina was.
She was awesome.
in this form. She was absolutely unstoppable that day. I think Pegula was a bit sluggish. I think she'd arrived much later in Shenzhen. She didn't quite have it, whereas Rybakina was just on it and dismissive and so good. But that was a bit of an outlier because they hadn't actually played in a few years. I think that was their first match since 2023. But I did think it did demonstrate that it probably is on Rybakina's racket. And I think if she does play as well as she has, she's the favourite to win it. But as I said before, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a bit of a dip at some point from Rybakina. I think if there's not, and she manages to keep up this level for all 5 matches, fair play. But I suppose I'm just sort of slightly banking on a dip and feeling like maybe someone will be able to capitalise on it.
David, what you got happening here?
I think we're going to see Anisimova win, obviously, and I think we're going to see Rybakina in the final against her.
The Billie Jean King Cup was indoors, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just musing on what we talked about yesterday, Matt, about how little indoor tennis there is on the WTA tour. I hadn't quite fully sort of processed that. There's a fraction of the amount of the number of indoor tournaments in the WTA as there are to the ATP. All of those really fantastic European indoor tournaments, Antwerp, Basel, Vienna, Rotterdam earlier in the season, Paris, of course, that we've just had. The WTA does not have equivalents. It has the odd, the odd Linz, that sort of thing, and it's got these finals in Riyadh. But it's a lot harder to say this player loves indoor conditions. We know this player is fantastic indoors because we don't have the data set like we do in men's tennis. Like, we can absolutely unequivocally say Felix Auger-Aliassime is the best version of himself indoors. I don't have any hesitation to say that. And I can't think of a WTA player that I would be confident to say that about. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because maybe Rybakina would be somebody that, if we had a better data set, might fall into that category. It makes sense to me that she likes it indoors.
Yeah, I actually think the rally types between these two are going to be really nice to watch indoors. Two flat, piercing, clean hitters of the ball like that. But you're right. I mean, I think Rybakina really would make hay if she was playing indoor tennis. Goran Ivanisevic used to love it, and they had that little bit of time together. She's got that serve, can't be affected by the wind, scoots away off the surface. I tend to feel. So yeah, I mean, unlike the Swiatek game with the loads and loads of spin, I think that game is blunted a little bit. The forehand is blunted a little bit indoors by comparison. So yeah, it's going to be a cracking weekend, I think. This
Anisimova, Sabalenka, the rematch of possibly the best moment of Matt's year. Anisimova's victory over Sabalenka in that Wimbledon semi-final. Going to have the same result, Matt?
Yeah. Look, Anisimova's always played well against Sabalenka, right? Going back to their very early meeting, she's always, I think, felt comfortable in the matchup. And there was a little period when Sabalenka got a straight sets win over her in Australia last year, even at Roland Garros this year, where I thought, okay, Sabalenka's stepped up and has added layers to her game now with a bit of variety, some slice, the occasional drop shot, to become more than just a big hitter that Anisimova can hit off the court. I felt like Sabalenka had improved that much that maybe she'd turn the tables on that matchup. But actually, I think Anisimova has countered that with her own improvements, and we saw that at Wimbledon. And even that US Open final, Anisimova was able to hurt Sabalenka at times, and I think that was mostly about the occasion and Sabalenka handling that better. I think Anisimova was nervous. That match was indoors, and Anisimova had a lot of trouble with the lights and the serving, and it got in her head and threw her off, and she didn't handle that all very well in the moment. Whereas Sabalenka, having played more of those big matches, I think did handle it better, and of course won that tiebreak in the second set, kept up her extraordinary tiebreak record. It didn't. I guess what I'm saying is that it didn't feel like a matchup thing. The reason Sabalenka won it. I think Anisimova, matchup wise, is comfortable against Sabalenka, and yeah, look, now she's got her groove in the tournament. Now she's found her range. I'm backing that tennis. I'm backing Anisimova to do it.
Is there anyone in the world you don't back it? And in her groove Anisimova? Is in her groove Anisimova the best player in the world? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe that's deluded, but I think so. Look, I think there are certain exceptions, right? I think Iga Swiatek at Roland Garros, I think. I'm not sure I would back an in the groove Anisimova against sort of peak Swiatek there. And look, maybe like a peak Sabalenka in Australia, where she's played so well, I think, at times. And I think, she is the best hard court player in the world, Sabalenka, for sure. But the indoors element is interesting because, as you said, we've got a much smaller data set there.
Well, wouldn't it be great to see her against Rybakina in the final, given what that first match looked like? Because if we did get an Anisimova kind of at her best, having found her form in a final against Rybakina, sustaining that form, that's one I find really difficult to pick.
David's just skipping over the semi-final there, David.
Just skimming over the world number one there, David.
Listen, I think that is going to be the final. I may be wrong. Look, absolutely, Sabalenka deserves massive respect and time, and I may just be saying what I want because I've predicted it. Sabalenka's beaten her before. she's also lost to her a lot before. So there's good reason for the prediction. It's just that I'm kind of curious to see a rematch of Anisimova Rybakina with Anisimova being ready.
Just apropos of not much at all, I don't think the year-end number one trophy should be a trophy. I think trophies are for winning tournaments. I think it should be something like a crown.
I don't
something
think you
else.
need anything.
You know,
Just say
fun.
the world number one.
a medal.
I quite liked what they
I
gave.
I don't think it should be a trophy.
When Simona Halep received a massive number one of flowers.
Yes, of flowers, but
That
they
was
die.
Cool. Yeah.
Is the problem.
Great visual,
Yes,
though. Great
I agree.
photos.
It was visually great. I agree. Yeah, really remember those photos. But those
Yes, I
flowers
do like the idea
will have
of
died. A
crown or sitting on a throne or something.
Yeah, come with me on this, Matt.
Yeah,
okay,
I could get on
let's
board
call it a
with that.
movement. I also think that, for casual fans, it's confusing. You're scrolling social media or whatever, and you think that the WTA Finals is, in on day 3 or whatever, and up pops a picture of Sabalenka cradling a trophy. I think that's a bit confusing. I mean, ATP Finals does it as well, don't they? Anyway, let's talk doubles. David, your moment in the sun, it cometh. Because Luisa Stefani is through to the semi-finals, as is the incredible Katerina Siniakova. She secured the year-end number one for the 5th time, which levels Martina Navratilova for the most year-end number one finishes in WTA history. And she had an incredible dress at the WTA photo shoot, of which I will say nothing more. So she and Taylor Townsend won the Liesl Huber group and will face Elisa Mertens and Veronika Kudermetova, who finished second in the Navratilova group. And atop the Navratilova group, it was Shea Sue and Elena Ostapenko. They will face Timea Babos and, what a player, Luisa Stefani. They came from a set down to beat defending champions Gabi Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe in a straight shootout for the semi-finals. David, it's doubles corner.
I tell you, I think I might have enjoyed the doubles more than the singles so far. Even though the last couple of days it's fired up a bit in the singles, but I've watched so many good doubles matches. I mean, I love the lineup. Obviously, I'm watching every move of Luisa Stefani that I get the possible chance to do, because I just love watching her play. I mean, she's so dynamic as a doubles player. I've always thought that. She's everywhere, and she's just infectious, really, when she's out there. Great partners, those two, Babos and Stefani. I mean, obviously, they've got to the semi-finals, but in a tough group, in a tough tournament, it's not easy. These players that beat them today, Routliffe and Dabrowski, that is tough. And to keep on digging in when you're maybe not as experienced at the sharp end of these tournaments as some of your opponents are. Always love watching Townsend and Siniakova. It's just great to see the zest that these players still have at the end of the season, and how much it means to them. You can feel their energy. You can feel like that this is the pinnacle of some of these players' year. And I would imagine that is the case, really, for Stefani and Babos. And I am fascinated now to see them go up against Ostapenko and Shea. I mean, come on. This is awesome.
Yeah, let's go. I'm very much here for that. And we will be here with a show on Saturday to talk about the last couple of days of the WTA Finals, those semi-finals and finals. We'll know who has won the trophy. In the singles, it will be a first-time winner. That was guaranteed when Coco Gauff went out of the tournament earlier today. 10th consecutive year, it'll be a new champion of the WTA Finals.
Just kind of wild, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't have any takes on that stat. It's just enjoyable. Make of it what you will. We will tell you who that champion is on Saturday, and we'll talk about it. And we'll also talk about Lorenzo Musetti's West in Athens.
2 to go.
2 to go. He struggled past a 40-year-old yesterday. 6-4 in the third against Wawrinka. We were following those live scores and finding Lorenzo Musetti's misery awfully comical. But Novak Djokovic trucks on as well. He struggled past the, quote, surprisingly good Nuno Borges. That's how he described him in the on-court interview afterwards, when he spoke a bit of Greek, adding a new language to his arsenal, Novak Djokovic. We'll update you on how that's going
hasn't
on Saturday.
Said whether he's going to play the Turin does he? Even though the draw's been made.
The head of the Italian Tennis Federation announced, it was all very Craig Tiley, announced that Novak Djokovic would be playing. Because, of course, he's in, as it stands at the moment, he's in the field. Novak Djokovic then very quickly poured cold water on those quotes and said, I haven't said either way. I haven't made a decision. I'll let you know at the end of Athens. And Lorenzo Musetti dropped to his knees.
Yeah, we've got a slash in the draw. We've got an Auger Aliassime
group though. I want to see that.
Musetti. Yeah.
It's not great, is it? Yeah, we'll talk about that draw on Saturday, and we still might not know who's in it on Saturday. When is the Athens final? Is it Saturday?
I think the
Sunday?
Athens final has to be Saturday, right? It has to end.
Who
it has
knows?
to end before
they have
Turin.
to
Not
put
even
Lorenzo
the
Musetti out
ATP
of
could
his
be
misery.
that stupid.
Maybe they'll just find a new tournament for Musetti to play.
Well, the Davis Cup.
If he doesn't, yeah, he's the talisman, isn't
Still,
he?
he's got to play that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lorenzo, that I find your nightmare so damn comical. We'll talk about it on Saturday. It's going to be a packed show on Saturday. Buckle up. That is our next normal show. But it is not, David, our next show. Dun, dun, dun.
No, because we had a very busy day yesterday.
Some busier than others. Some of us sat down all day looking at you, David Law.
Yeah, I was sitting in my car for 8 hours on what should have been a 2-hour journey, and eventually got there. But am I breaking this news, or are you?
Well, it was worth it in the end, wasn't it, David? Because we have dropping tomorrow a surprise, special, in-depth interview with Jack Draper, the former world number 4, formerly not that long ago. Obviously, he's been out of action since the US Open, nursing this arm injury. We've obviously got an update on that and, frankly, all sorts of things. He was an incredibly open book. He approached us. He wanted to come on the show. He was prepared to talk about anything and everything. And we did for 2 hours yesterday at the podcast room in Barnes. And he pushed it back by 3 hours, was it? Because of David's encounter with the M40 motorway. Couldn't have been nicer or more accommodating about it. And it was a real pleasure to get to know Jack Draper better, get some of his pretty interesting, controversial maybe thoughts on the state of tennis at the moment and scheduling in particular. Pretty hot topic in the sport at the moment. He's very open about his thoughts on that. And we think the listeners are going to enjoy it, David.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, I knew Jack a bit from the tennis tour, but I'd never spent 2 hours in his company like this. We've got to know him really over the last week, and I really like him. I really like him a lot, and I think the person he is will come through in that conversation, and I suspect a lot of people will go away thinking they like him too, and that they're interested in what he's got to say about stuff. I hope so, because I think he's a top lad.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, Matt, but it's all been worth it, which is very easy to say for the people that didn't spend 8 hours on the M40 yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. It was a tough day for me, and yet I feel like David, I just can't really even process 8 hours in the car. I don't quite know how you did that, David. It was quite extraordinary. But yeah, it was a real pleasure to speak with Jack. You know, we're pumped when we get 5 minutes with a top player for Tennis Podcast Meets. You know, like to get 2 hours of Jack Draper being so open and honest and reflective, and as you said, just a really easy person to deal with in terms of trying to get this interview arranged and then push back. And yeah, he was just great about it. And you know, we pushed him on some stuff, and he had a lot of interesting things to say. So I hope people will enjoy that.
It'll be going up bright and early, first thing tomorrow, Friday morning, 7 a.m. UK time. So we hope you enjoy it. We'll be back on Saturday with our next normal show. We'll also reflect in a little bit more depth on some of the stuff that Jack's had to say, and maybe some reaction to what Jack's had to say in the tennis world as well. We'll bring you that. And we'll talk about the WTA Finals and the ATP Finals and Lorenzo Musetti's hilarious quest. We also have a couple of shows for friends of the Tennis Podcast next week as well. Apparently that is... We are gluttons for punishment, but we're very excited about these. We have our was that a deep inhale, Matt?
It was a moment of, oh my God, I'm going to the Wimbledon Library tomorrow, and
are you?
Yes, I'd forgotten due to everything
Factors.
Else. Yeah, but I'm always excited to go to the Wimbledon Library, so it'd be great.
You'll enjoy it when you get there because you're researching Bud Collins. He is the subject of our next edition of Tennis Relived. Matt's already done quite a lot of research into this show, and he sent us, as he always does, the odd snippet, in particular from Bud's book that he wrote at the end of the 1980s. I think Bud, an esteemed tennis voice and broadcaster for decades. The media room is named after him at the US Open, and quite right too. He's one of the most iconic voices the sport has ever had. And to say that some of the lines that he wrote in that 1989 book could have been written today would be an understatement, really. Pretty incredible stuff. So that show will be coming next week for Friends of the Tennis Podcast. We also have a Q&A show, a live Q&A show for Friends of the Pod on Wednesday. So if you, like us, can't get enough of the Tennis Podcast, then the link to become a friend is in our show notes. And we've also got lots of other pods coming away next week. We'll be reviewing the group stages of the ATP Finals, and then we have a live show after the final on the evening UK time of Sunday the 16th of November. Everyone feeling overwhelmed? Yep, great.
I feel great.
People so often say to me, "Oh, things must be quiet now the Grand Slam season's over," and I'm always like, I don't know how to explain
Not
to you
when
how
Jack
busy
Draper's
November
sliding
always
into
is.
your DMs.
Yeah, I love it.
We have our wonderful mascots. Hello Maisie, hello Phoebe, hello Roger, hello Greg, Chris and Jeff, our epic top folks and executive producers. Matt, let's have some shout outs.
We have Rebecca from California.
Hello Rebecca.
Hi Rebecca.
Rebecca Marino.
Nice.
Good. From Canada.
Yeah. And
what do we know about Rebecca?
Rebecca has an 80-pound white lab called Sammy, who loves to watch Grand Slam tennis on the TV with Rebecca.
That's a big dog. Wow.
How many pounds is Billie Jean?
10. Ish. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Sammy. Pretty keen to see some pictures of Sammy with other objects for scale.
Yeah.
Rebecca, thank you very much for that dog visual. Excellent.
We've also got Noonie Tal.
Hello, Noonie. Little bit like Nuno Borges, who I just watched lose to Novak Djokovic. A little bit. Any advances on Nuno? No. What do we know about Nuni?
Nuno, oh God, I said Nuno there. Nooni is a long-time listener and friend and says that we're their favourite podcast of all time.
Oh.
Nooni.
Which is lovely.
That is absolutely lovely. Thank you.
And finally, we have Tammy Gibson from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Hello, Tammy. I've been to Fort Lauderdale.
How was it?
I don't think I have.
Sunny. It was really sunny.
Okay,
Nice.
I'm in.
On the water, sun, sea. What's not to like? Politics, maybe, but...
And we've got a good little story here from Tamara. She says, in the mid-90s, I worked for the USTA Player Development in Key Biscayne. And when the Lipton tournament rolled in, the pros used our gym. And being that close to my heroes of the time was surreal. Tamara says, my very important duties included showing Gabby Sabatini the new high-tech treadmill, making sure Stefan Edberg signed the right form, and giving Martina Navratilova directions to the bathroom. Not glamorous, but unforgettable, Tamara says.
Wow. That's really cool. Thank you for that, Tamara. Tamara, Nooni, and Rebecca, thank you very much for being friends of the Tennis Podcast. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network. We will be back with that special Jack Draper interview dropping at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And we three will be back on Saturday to talk all things tennis. Thank you for listening. We'll speak to you then.